There are 6 problems or issues when it comes to DIY solar panel stands and or flexible folding solar panels. And I've invented a solar panel stand that fixes those 6 issues, and it's cheaper than you would think. Those 6 issues are: first, DIY stands and folding solar panels are actually pretty expensive. The second issue is that DIY stands and flexible or foldable solar panels are quite fragile and don't withstand weather and wind. Third, the materials are not designed for long-term outdoor use. Fourth, you get shading issues from snow, leaves, grass, dirt, whatever it is building up on the panels because of how they're set up. Fifth, they're not that easy to set up, especially the DIY stands. And sixth, they're not adjustable. So my patent-pending portable solar panel stand fixes all 6 of these issues. It's affordable, it's wind resistant, the materials are also outdoor rated to last for decades. It allows for snow and debris all to fall off the solar panel, it's easy to set up, and it's also easy to adjust the angle. My name is Ben, and this is the Minuteman Solar YouTube channel, and I want to show you what it took to make this stand and why it's such a good option for any solar panel that has a frame. For over 3 years, I have designed, tested, redesigned, retested this specific solar panel stand. I actually have 15 variations in order to get it to where it is now. Now, it's probably not perfect, and I'm sure there are other things that could be tweaked, but I've already put this through multiple winters, multiple summers, multiple windstorms, snow, rain, sun. I put it through every test that I could consider, and it's come out working great. Now, if you already know that you need an affordable portable solar panel stand, go to poweredportablesolar.com, which will soon be minutemansolar.com. So depending on when you see this video, you'll go to one of those 2 domains, and you can find the patent pending solar panel stand there. I've been involved with solar for almost a decade now, and for all of that time, I've had issues setting up solar panels. And that was one of the reasons why I was led to make this portable solar panel stand. Now, in the past, you may have seen where I've actually taken slotted aluminum rail, made a leg out of it, and then use slotted angle iron to make a crossbeam where you could put 5 100-watt solar panels on it. And that was great, but that costs over $150 to $200 just to make that stand, just to hold 500 watts of panels. And that really only works for flexible, lightweight solar panels. I've also made stands out of treated lumber, non-treated lumber, PVC, metal. At one point, I even had a local steel shop take aluminum, fold it and cut it, and I made my own portable stand out of a customized system that I designed, and that also did not work. And over the years of doing all this, I've had the chance to talk to literally thousands of people who have run into similar issues. I've seen stands everything from PVC to wood and treated lumber, as well as just leaning them against the house, propping them up on cinder blocks, even using dining chairs, lawn chairs, tables, lifetime plastic tables, all of those things, or even scaffolding, drywall, hanging lifts. I've seen people build stands that hang off of their fence. I've pretty much seen what most people are trying to do in order to get their panel set up. And it's all actually costing more than having something that's dedicated for setting up panels easily. And there's even a funny one of a guy wearing a solar panel on his head in order to charge his phone. So every mount you can conceive, people have been trying it. I've tested over 100 different solar generators, batteries, power stations, all of those things here at my house. And I've used everything from 50 watt to 550 watt solar panels. And there isn't one stand that will work from a 50 to a 550 watt panel. That's until now. And not only have I put tens of thousands of dollars into the research and development of this, but even of my own testing, I've had panels flip off of stands. I've had to replace dozens of them that have broken. One of the first ways that I set up panels is I just put them on the grass in my front lawn. And just a couple hours later, I picked them up and put them away in my garage. Little did I know that those solar panels got so hot that they actually killed all of the grass underneath the solar panel. So I had these big rectangles burned into my lawn. I thought I had St. Augustine grass, but it must be Lazarus grass because it eventually came back from the dead. But who knows? I'm just glad it came back, and you don't want to make the same mistake either. So let's quickly break down the 6 issues and how the Minuteman solar panel stand fixes all of those issues. Now, the first and most important issue is going to be price. Now, I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and the #1 focus that most people have is backup power for their house. Sometimes it's for a cabin, sometimes it's for an RV, but most importantly, people are trying to run a refrigerator, freezer, lights, fans, Wi-Fi, TV, well pump, water heater, all of those things. And the issues that they're running into is that roof mounts and ground mounts cost a lot for permitting, as well as the materials themselves, and it's not worth the headache just for backup power. So keeping that in mind, these panel stands are most commonly used on panels of like 400 watts or larger, but they work perfectly with 100 watt, 200 watt, and all the different sizes of solar panels that have a frame. So the cheapest folding 400 watt solar panel that I could find was for $356 on Amazon from a company called Mahapowwow. Mapowos, M-H-P-O-W-O-S. I don't know how you say it, Mapowos, okay? So Mapowos has a folding solar panel that's basically 4 100-watt panels linked together, and that equals 89 cents per watt. Now, normally that same solar panel is actually $420, and if you get it at the normal price, it's $1.05 per watt. But a high quality residential bifacial solar panel is only $137 online. If you want to find those solar panels I'm talking about and get that cheap pricing, I'll just have a link in the description down below. So that's only 34 cents per watt. That's pretty cheap. But hold on, you're probably saying that's not a portable solar panel. Keeping in mind, we're using this at home the majority of the time. So it doesn't necessarily need to be compact, it just needs to be able to be set up easily and quickly after hurricane, flood, fire, whatever the situation is, or just to offset the power bill at your house. Once you take that $137 panel and add one of these panel stands, you're only looking at $227 per panel with the stand, and that's only 57 cents per watt. So it's still close to 1/2 the price of just buying the most Chinesey 400-watt folding solar panel you can find. That probably means no good warranty, no good customer service, no support when you need it the most. And that's why most people will actually prefer to get something from like Renogy, EcoFlow, Bluetti, or a well-recognized brand that has some substance behind it to make sure that they're not going to go out of business or anything like that. So that being said, we look at a 400-watt folding solar panel from Renogy. And it's actually 4 of these rigid framed 100-watt solar panels that are just hinged together. So it's not as compact and it's not as lightweight, but it does have a little bar kickstand that pokes out of the back, so that way you can tilt it up. That's $500. So that comes out to $1.25 per watt. So that's more than double the cost of just getting a 400-watt panel and the stand. And then with EcoFlow, they have a famous 400-watt folding solar panel that's technically like a flexible solar panel, and there's 4 of those put together, and that's $750. So that comes out to $1.88 per watt, and you use the case in order to make a stand, which is actually pretty clever, but then the panel itself kind of sags down. So not perfectly ideal, but pretty cool. But with that, you're at about 3.5 times the cost of just buying a 400-watt panel and the stands. And Bluetti doesn't have a 400-watt panel, they have a 350-watt panel for only $650, but that still comes out to $1.86 per watt. And to be as fair as possible, EcoFlow even has their own aluminum triangle legs that you can connect to a panel, but that panel has to then be turned on its side rather than being upright. And then it's meant to be bolted down onto something like a roof or a platform. So it's not portable, it's not collapsible, it's not adjustable. It's just 2 triangles that go on the edge of the panel, and that's $90 per panel. So very similar in price to the panel stand, but you don't get the adjustability, it takes up more space, and you don't have the option to get it up off the ground so that way snow, leaves, dirt, all of those things don't build up on the panel. But with my patent pending solar panel stand, you can use it with any framed solar panel. The second issue is the fragility of folding solar panels as well as DIY stands. So to start out with the folding solar panels, because those panels do not have the tempered glass face and the aluminum border around them, they're very fragile. Now most people, when they get their solar panel and set it up, they're going to grab it by the top and they're going to adjust the angle so that way it's pointed towards the sun. Whether that's bending it down so that way it's lower to the ground for light during the summer, or they're just twisting it. As soon as they do that, you crunch the cells. So whether that's you grabbing the panel and setting it up and adjusting it, or it flipping over in the wind because it doesn't have anything to anchor it down, whatever it is, it's really easy to crack those cells, which means you're going to produce less power. But even on a DIY stand, like mine is made out of treated lumber, so that way it's rated for outdoor use, and I had the panels anchored to the stands themselves using these big clamps. Even with doing that, I've had multiple times where my panels have flown off the stands or even had the whole stand flip over. So I've lost well over a dozen solar panels just to the wind picking up out of nowhere and flipping my solar panels over. So whether it's a DIY PVC stand or wooden stand or even a folding solar panel, it's very easy for the weather, the wind, all of that to flip them over, to break them and cause even more expense. Which brings us to the third issue, which is longevity of the materials. Folding flexible solar panels are not designed for long-term outdoor use. Once you've opened them a few times, that plastic starts to delaminate. That's one of the most common issues besides cracked cells that people have with their solar panels, is the materials start to separate from being used. So whether water or dirt or debris gets inside there, eventually it can reach the cells, cause corrosion, and it can even cause the whole cell to fail, cause a short, and have it catch on fire. Now that's not very common, but it can lead to that if that delamination becomes big enough. Or some folding solar panels, like the Mapowos one, it actually uses fabric around the cells in order to protect that plastic. Really all that's doing is covering it up. It's still delaminating underneath, and I've even seen where that fabric breaks down in the sun. So not only does it get sun faded, but all the thread starts to rip, and eventually you can actually separate the fabric from the backing and see inside behind the solar cell. And that's really bad. You don't want any water or debris getting inside there. Even with people who make their own stands out of like PVC or wood, PVC, for example, is not outdoor rated. So within a year, it'll turn yellow, it'll become brittle, and it'll break. Now you can use treated lumber like what I did in order to have a longer lasting stand. What I found is that even after a few months, that lumber was starting to bend and bow. The crowns and turns on it were really bad. And even to the point that some of them were breaking, even though they were screwed in place, they were cracking and losing their strength. Remember, I've experienced all of these issues and I was trying to find a solution to fix them because they were happening to me and it was causing me more costs because I kept getting panels that were breaking. That's why with this injection molded piece right here, we use a very special plastic. This is not like ABS or any type of cheap plastic. Now this is a special plastic called acrylonitrile styrene acrylate, which is also known as ASA. It's UV proof for decades. It'll work up to like 200 degrees Fahrenheit and well below 0 Fahrenheit. It has an extremely high tensile strength so it doesn't break easily, and it's designed to work in extreme conditions. Now the legs themselves are made out of aluminum, so it's not going to corrode or rust, as well as it has this black coating on the outside for additional protection. Even down to the rubber foot pads here are UV treated. That way they can last outside for years on end without any issues. All of the hardware used inside of this is all 304 stainless steel, which means as long as it's not submerged in salt water, you're not gonna have any corrosion or rust or any issues. The materials are designed to last for decades outside, even though the stands themselves are not necessarily designed to be outside for decades on end. Most importantly, this is designed by me, an American, made here in Idaho by Americans for Americans. So as long as you're getting it from poweredportablesolar.com or minutemansolar.com, you don't have to worry about cheap Chinese knockoffs that are using inferior materials that are eventually going to break on you. Not to mention that it is patent pending. It is going for a full patent right now. There's nothing else on the market that serves this purpose, and that's why I invented it, because there was such a demand for it in my own use and by other people needing portable stands. Now the fourth issue is shading. Here in Idaho, we get a lot of snow. And if the bottom of the solar panel is resting on the ground, then once snow lands on this, it all tends to pile up. The same happens in the fall with leaves, or if I trim the grass and all of those grass clippings get up on the cells and then fall down, or even if just the grass is growing in front of the solar panel itself. All of that leads to shading issues. And the way that a lot of solar panels work is they're actually parted into different segments. And so if you cover one cell in this column of cells, you would still probably get 66% of the output because there's two other rows working. It all depends on how these cells are all internally wired together. But if I cover just the bottom two rows of cells, I may lose production upwards of 90% out of the panel, even though I'm only covering, say, 10 to 20% of the panel. And that's for two issues. One is the transfer of energy between cells, as well as secondly, just the cell itself being covered up from shade, leaves, snow, or whatever. The vast majority of DIY stands have the solar panel resting on the ground, whether it's leaning against a wall, a chair, on a wooden stand, anything like that. They're using the ground as their support. And especially with folding solar panels, they're specifically designed about using the ground as their support to hold up the bottom edge of the panel. And that's why I have the optional lower leg set that you can add to the upper leg set. And it still uses the exact same bracket. It all clips together the exact same and uses a lower grommet hole that exists on all framed solar panels. And then that will go underneath the solar panel to get the bottom edge up off of the ground. So I would say you probably don't need the lower leg set if you're in an environment that doesn't have snow, you don't have a bunch of leaves and grass growing in front of it or falling on it or anything like that, and if you're on a hard surface. Now, on the vast majority of framed solar panels, especially the bigger ones, you'll have two grommet holes up high and two grommet holes down below. This specially designed clamp will go into the lowest grommet hole, and the bracket of the lower leg will go into the next grommet hole up. And what will happen is you'll have this bracket connected to the frame of the panel, and then this leg is going to slide directly into this clamp right here. It holds very strong, and that ensures that the legs cannot pivot and move around from this point because they're locked in right here. So it makes it even sturdier and better for wind resistance because that air can flow underneath it. And then we have an anchoring system that's included with the system in order to lock it down to the ground. And that's where we get into the fifth issue, which is easy setup. Now, arguably, the folding solar panels are pretty easy to set up. You unfold them, you prop out the legs, and you're done. But with a DIY stand, whether you're making that out of wood or PVC or whatever, like the ones that I made out of PVC, trying to fix this issue before I invented this, using self-tapping screws and bolts, I screwed in a PVC tube to the back, and then I had a U-shaped PVC leg coming off of that. And I could tilt it out, but as soon as I went beyond a certain degree, those legs would completely slide out, causing the whole panel to fall to the ground. So probably one of the biggest downsides to this patent pending system is that you do have to take the 2 minutes in order to attach this bracket to the existing grommet hole of the framed solar panel. But additionally, once it's mounted, you never have to take it off. And then it's always ready as soon as you need it outside to simply extend the legs, plant it down, and you're done. And that gets us to the final one, which is item number 6, which is adjustability. Now, here in Idaho, during the summer, the sun will be around 73 degrees in the sky, so pretty high up in the sky. But during the winter, it'll get as low as about 22 degrees above the horizon. So that whole change in the angle of the sun can dramatically change how much power the solar panel can make. Because wherever the sun is, we always want the solar panel to be perpendicular to it. So in the summer, our solar panels need to be pointed nearly straight up, and during the winter, they need to be pointed nearly flat. Most DIY stands don't have that ability to adjust easily, and especially folding solar panels, their legs are predetermined in size and the angle that you're going to get. So it's probably not the worst thing in the world that they're stuck at a certain angle, but additionally to that, the adjustability of these portable solar panel stands is incredible. So I can unloosen this part right here. So this is the macro adjustment where we can adjust by large degrees how much the panel leg is sticking out. And that's by simply adjusting this cog head between the frame bracket and the leg bracket and where they join together. When tucked away, the solar panel is up like this. You can see this sits perfectly parallel to the back of the solar panel. So as an example, I can take this and I can adjust the angle easily, and then the legs become my micro adjustment. If I just need to get a little bit of adjustment, I just adjust the height of the leg. But what if I'm on uneven terrain? So right now I have one leg going all the way to the ground. So I'm gonna have this leg actually go down to this shelf, and I'm gonna extend it all the way right here. And now, even though this leg's all the way down there and this leg's all the way over here, I can adjust these legs however I need. So this means if I'm on uneven terrain, this will be adjustable. So all the adjustability that's needed is just this stand right here. I can collapse it all the way in and have a short leg. I can extend it all the way out and have a tall leg. I can go ahead and lock that in right here, lock in the legs just like that, and it's done. So regardless if it's summer or winter, I get the exact angle that I need to make the most out of the solar panels. So the question is, why would you spend more money, have more fragile solar panels, have them not be portable, isn't designed to last long term and will break down in the sun, isn't lightweight and isn't adjustable? It just doesn't make sense. This whole system includes an anchoring system where you use these special straps that have this grommet on them. They go around each bracket, and if there's two brackets next to each other, it's big enough to go around both brackets, so that way it's holding them all together, shoulder to shoulder. You're gonna use the supplied strap to go through that grommet and go down to this specially made stake. I specifically designed this with a grade 8 bolt, so that way it's not gonna corrode as well, with a socket head, so that way it can be drilled into the ground, so it has the strongest pull-out resistance as possible. So with this being in the ground, the strap going between the hook and the grommet, you can now secure this straight to the ground to make it extremely wind resistant. Now it's probably not going to go through a hurricane or a tornado, nor would I recommend finding out the hard way. But the point being, you can use the anchoring system if you're going to have the system out for a while. Say the power's out for 3 weeks. You don't want that system to blow away on you, anchor it to the ground. So the Minuteman solar panel stand fixes all of these issues, making it more affordable and easier for you to have portable backup power ready to go anytime you need it. By using residential framed solar panels, you save a ton of money, you get better protection, longer lasting materials, as well as all of the wind resistance. 10 folding solar panels versus 10 normal solar panels with these stands, you would literally save over $2,500 by having the same amount of wattage by using a framed panel and these stands instead. So thanks for supporting the channel. If you want to get yourself some of these panel stands, you can find them at poweredportablesolar.com or soon to be minutemansolar.com and get yourself the best portable panel stand on the market.